Welcome to What the Health? Where anything health is fair game as we tackle the trends and bust the myths about health and wellness. Here are your hosts, Dr. Dan and Angela Toro.
And welcome to another episode of What the Health. I am Dr. Dan here with my co-host,
Angela. Welcome back to another episode, guys. As you know, get it out of the way, we are here for informational purposes only. We are not offering any individualized medical advice. As always, talk to your trusted healthcare provider before making changes to your routine. So, with that being said,
we are going to talk about foods to die for. That's D-Y-E.
D-Y-E.
Not D-I-E. But anyway, maybe too many D-Y-Es could lead to D-I-E early.
Especially with, we're heading into the fall here, Halloween coming up, so that's the kickoff of the sweet overload.
Oh, it's literally the perfect storm. Yeah, I call basically from October through pretty much March.
Okay.
Because you basically now have, October, you've got Halloween. And then you go into the holidays with Thanksgiving. December is obviously
whatever.
Christmas candy. Yeah. January is whatever leftovers from the holiday season. And then February, you have the candies for Valentine's Day.
And then it goes right to Easter.
St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's, yeah.
So it's literally like, and by the way, with all that additional sugar and dyes that we're going to talk about, we're going to cram you inside, especially if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. For your winter, we're going to cram you inside. So you've got recirculating air, less sunshine, cold weather, just, take your pick.
Yeah.
And that's why, we've talked about flu season before. I don't know if I've done a podcast on that or maybe a video, but flu season, quote unquote, if you look at the perfect storm and what we are putting into our bodies as adults and kids, it makes perfect sense that we are, more sick, or at least symptomatically sick over the fall winter time than any other time.
And I think, there's the string of different holidays that you just mentioned, because we know it's the same candy out for every single one of those. So what's the difference? Well, let's make it different colors, so that we can sell it. So we can sell
Christmas
it at different
trees,
holidays.
eggs.
It's like, we'll make the beer green, and then we can charge double for it at St. Patrick's Day. And
there's probably nice dye.
That's all I can think about. I mean, that's just probably dyed Miller Lite or something. That's I mean, if I had to guess, but. Yeah, I would not drink the green beer personally. But again, not offering individualized medical advice.
That's right. I prefer straight up Guinness.
I'll take a Guinness. Yeah, I'll take a nice Guinness on St. Patrick's Day. But we digress.
So anyway,
but really just with the kickoff of the candy season. Let's call it that. We really just want to bring up, if you haven't heard, it's becoming more talked about, but how much these dyes, and we're talking about dyes, but really food additives in general. So food additives are anything that's being added to the food to make it last longer on the shelf, look prettier or taste better. So pretty much, thinking all the processed foods, candies, the stuff that has a very long shelf life.
Twinkies.
Twinkies that will outlive Zombieland. Oh my god, I love that movie. So really, like all those food additives, and we kind of were picking dyes as a jumping off point. They're chemicals essentially that are being added to the food to improve shelf life or taste or look. But our bodies have to do something with them. And honestly, that's where we're starting to see a lot of issues, and especially with kids. Yeah. So the big one with the whole reason this was prompted was the big thing with the food dyes, and specifically it's red 40, yellow 6, yellow 5. And then you thought one of the blues, but I could not find specifically which blue. But again, I'm sure none of them are great.
Ones. Yeah, exactly.
But those three I just listed, the red 40, yellow 6, and yellow 5, are the main ones in our sweets and cereals in the U.S. And they're believed to exacerbate attentional problems in children. So we're seeing this huge increase in, ADD, ADHD, these attention issues, aggression issues with kids. Yeah. And it's like, well, what else have we seen a huge increase in recent, we're not talking recent years, I'm talking the last couple of decades.
2 decades.
What have we seen a huge increase in? The snack and sweet industry.
Yeah.
So, you look at what we're starting, what are you pouring your kids? A bowl of, beautiful colored Fruit Loops or Lucky Charms or what are Tricks? Is that still a thing? Oh my God. Fruity Pebbles.
Yeah, Fruity Pebbles. Oh, those are my favorite.
Oh, see, I never liked any of those.
What was the chocolate one?
Which, the Cocoa Pebbles?
Cocoa Pebbles.
The Cocoa Puffs were the ones I liked.
Cocoa Puffs, Cocoa Pebbles. I like the Reese's peanut butter puffs.
I never liked those. That's might be the
we ate. You can obviously tell we ate way too much cereal.
We had all the cereals in there. But so we're starting the day off with that, and then later on in the day, kids want a snack, and it's, you're going for
fruit snacks.
Yeah, fruit snacks, Skittles.
I remember, so we lived on top of a big hill, and there was, we walked to both elementary school and middle school. At least I did. We moved out.
We did before I was in middle school, but yes.
So I would literally walk to school uphill both ways. Sometimes in the snow. I literally did because the middle
school. We were at the top of a hill. You had to go down and then up and up.
Yeah. So anyone who makes fun of someone who says that, I literally did that every day in middle school. There was a little hill to get up to the elementary school, but that wasn't bad. The middle school was the rough one. But anyway, there was a little convenience gas station convenience store.
Like by the elementary school.
Yeah, it was right by the elementary school.
Which was weird.
And through an apartment complex, and you could get to it very easily from our neighborhood, and safely. And so when I was old enough to start riding my bike or walking down, hanging out with friends, that was the big thing. We would go down in the summertime. We'd go down, take some of our money from allowance or whatever, money we made
our
from
crayon piggy banks.
Oh my gosh, I remember that.
Jeez,
we're really going down memory lane. Sorry, everyone. But yeah, I would go down and, get a freaking, plastic bag full of candy.
Oh, yeah.
And, I just look back on that. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was insane. The amount of sugar. And then again, the dyes and everything, all the additives. Because
they were all, you'd always go for the colored ones.
Of course, because those are the pretty, delicious ones.
The sour gummy worms are my favorite. I mean, that's probably the most artificial creation.
Yeah, Starburst.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so, in addition to just the massive amounts of sugar, which I know we've talked about in many of our podcasts, the effects of sugar, it's really all that other stuff, the stuff that's making it sticky and and binds it together, that makes it, you figure all that stuff, it's all different forms of sugar. So how are they making it into different forms? Well, they're using all of this, they're changing the color and they're changing the texture of it by using all these different additives.
Yeah.
And so that's really that, it's not just the sugar. People used to think, you give kids sugar and they had their sugar rush, and which is true, but all of these other things that their bodies are trying to process are clearly having an effect on them as well. And Erin, your wife, was just telling the story. She notices immediately with the kids after having the food dyes and that they don't listen. They have tantrums.
I will never forget our oldest son, Ethan. The first time he probably got a hold of a little too much. And again, he was our firstborn. We were opening our chiropractic office, so we were trying to be as behaved as we can in terms of clean eating. And so that kid didn't have any sugar until he was probably late 2, early 3, and I can't remember specifically what event we were at, but I remember very vividly we were at an event. It was probably around the holidays. So I'm hoping he was, just turned 3. Not that he had just turned 2, but, he's being a little bit more independent, walking around, probably, getting his hands on, extra piece of cake but again, the candy or, a juice box that was not one of the cleaner juice boxes. We can, we can go into that later, but I remember very vividly that it was a point in the party that he just completely melted down, tears, it was to the point where he could not control his emotions. It was so obvious that he just couldn't control himself, and this is outburst. He was a completely different kid because again, he's a very healthy kid normally, and it was just a night, a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde situation.
He is not a tantrum kid.
No,
he was a very mild mannered baby.
All. And what is going on? And I mean, I think it was like the car ride home, or like, after we had gotten home, shortly after, I look at Aaron and I'm like, it was the food. It was the food. It was the sugar and the food dye.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. And we kept an eye on that. And anytime we were at a party that, wasn't just the sugar, because the sugar he could handle, especially because, again, he didn't eat a lot of sugar. So he could handle it if he, had one day, with some cake or cookies or something. But
or if it's something that Aaron made where it was homemade.
Correct.
So it was like, that it was just the sugar, not all the other stuff.
But it was the additives, the dyes and the candy that just like completely
the super processed candies.
Just flipped the switch and just completely different person behaviorally. And, again, I have not seen that as often now. But again, a kid doesn't eat a lot of candy. But I know parents have that experience with their kids. And, I pray that you don't have, a kid that has massive outbursts all the time. But I understand that a lot of parents do have, children that have those outbursts. So, one of the first things you want to look at, if they do have a lot of behavior issues or attention issues, is cleaning up the diet. First and foremost, are they getting these dyes in their everyday diet? And, we just were mentioning from a memory lane about cereals being one of the first and primary, sources of these dyes.
Yeah. And the thing that's really, because, we talk about this often, and sometimes, it starts to sound like, you're those crazy people that think that like,
conspiracy theorists.
But it's, so this list that I pulled up, so there were 10 ingredients that are risky additives that are still approved by the FDA here in the US. So they are allowed to be in our food, but they are banned in several countries in Europe, banned in Canada, or if not fully banned, they have to have a warning label. So the dyes, it's not that they're banned, but anything that has those dyes actually has to come with a warning label on it that it can be a risky additive, especially for children. So
and it literally says, doesn't have to say about risk for behavior challenges or something?
They have to have, let's see what the exact wording was.
But yeah, so they have to have a warning on there.
Yes, that the dyes could cause an adverse effect on activity and attention in children. So the products must say those words.
Yeah.
So again, that's huge to think about the fact, like that's where I get so frustrated because, in this country, we have access to so much. We are literally so much. But there's also so much working against us, especially if you are trying to eat clean and you are trying to do the right things. The food in this country is just absolutely abysmal in comparison to, and I'm talking about if you look at the exact same product, a product to product comparison of what is sold here in the United States versus what is sold in those cleaner countries. So a perfect example is Heinz ketchup.
Heinz ketchup. I knew you were going to go there. We're here in Pittsburgh.
Heinz ketchup. We all love our Heinz ketchup. No debate that Heinz ketchup is the only ketchup.
The only ketchup. Just stop listening if you disagree.
No debate there. Don't you worry. I'm not about to tell you to stop eating your Heinz ketchup. I think I would have to leave the city.
Yeah, you're done.
But Heinz ketchup, so if you've ever noticed in the grocery store, there is a version of Heinz that's called Simply Heinz. And essentially it is a cleaner version. So it doesn't have all of the additives to it. It has less sugar in it. It's basically just your tomato, the simple amount of sugar that's needed to have, just like when you're making tomato sauce, you do need some of that sugar to cut the acidity. But it's essentially that. It's tomato puree and the small amount of sugar you need, doesn't have all the other crap in it.
Yeah.
But it's a special higher price version of Heinz here in the States. If you go to Canada and go to the store and pick up a bottle of Heinz ketchup.
It doesn't say Simply Heinz.
It doesn't say just Heinz ketchup. That is what it is. It is what is sold here as the higher version, cleaner version, Simply Heinz. That's all they have. Yep. They don't have the lower, the bottom shelf.
Yeah, the cheaply made with additives and chemicals. And...
So their everyday Heinz is Simply Heinz. So we have the ability to make these cleaner versions of products. I can't think of the other one. Don't quote me on it, but I want to say it's like an instant oatmeal, like maybe a Quaker oatmeal or something. And if you look at ingredient list of the US versus Europe, it's almost like 2 or 3 times longer as far as all the added stuff. So again, same product, same exact
oats
product.
should be oats.
It should be oats. Yeah, oats again. Maybe there's brown sugar or something in it, and
whatever they add to it.
But
to
it's
put
like
flavor.
no, they put this like laundry list of ingredients and chemicals in it. And again, and a lot of it, and what's so frustrating is these chemicals are partially what's making you addicted to that food. So, again, same way that like all the crap in cigarettes makes you want to keep having more, even if you know it's not good for you. There's a reason that you crave this junk. And it's not just the sugar. Because if it was the sugar, you would just go to the pantry and eat a teaspoon of sugar, but no one's doing that. It's all this, it's the combination of all these chemicals and flavorants and that make it just so addictive. And
it's literally affecting your brain.
It is affecting your brain. And so if it's affecting your brain in that way, who's to say how else it's affecting, again, especially with kids, their behavior, their attention, their ability. Kids already have a hard enough time processing their emotions. So let's dump a bunch of chemicals on top of it and wish them the best of luck.
Yeah, and by the way, let's try and sit you in a classroom for 8 hours.
Exactly, yeah. So, okay.
And then you can't sit still and, you have attention. Yeah, you have ADHD. You have attention disorder. So
it's like, or you're 8.
Medication. We're going to give you medication. Well, that's the other thing. It's like you literally, it sounds like a conspiracy, but you literally look at like how these, massive organizations are lobbying for each other. It's like, so the food industry puts these chemicals in the food so you become more addicted to the food, but now you're also, showing poor, behavior in your classroom. But wait, pharma has a medication for that. So let's put you on the medication and now the medication causes this and round you go.
I can't remember which documentary it was, but I remember it was years ago I watched this, but they showed the timeline of, so the tobacco industry and snack industry are hand in hand. And so at the time that cigarettes started being, really had to start being labeled as carcinogen and, the stopped being couldn't be advertised anymore. And all the restrictions started coming in for cigarettes. Oh, weirdly, now all of a sudden we're seeing this increase in all these chemicals in our snack foods, and we're seeing an increase in advertisement for snack foods. And because you have to remember, there used to be advertisements for a cigarette. I mean, that was a huge seller, huge, market. And then all of a sudden they weren't allowed to advertise for that. Well, imagine, if the snack industry was told the same thing. You can't, what commercials would be left? what, if you take away all the, exactly. So, it would be pharmaceuticals. So, it's no surprise that, they continue to want to, again, it's good for the people making money that people continue to think these things taste good and keep going back to them despite the fact that they're affecting our health. In fact, again, it's helping big pharma then if these things continue to affect our health.
Well, and again, you even look at being young and in undergraduate, you used to think like if you're overweight or you're sick, it's like it's your own fault. And to some extent, like if you have any form of an education, in this country, it's pretty easy to figure out like what is causing these things. But if you get into like a depressed area, a lower socioeconomic class, and you're not getting this information, and then again, you mentioned the Simply Heinz versus the regular Heinz. Yeah. All of these products that are so cheap to make because all of the additives, it's less food and more chemical, so it's cheaper to make. So you market that to, depressed and lower socioeconomic income classes, and it's just like, well, wait a minute, you're completely taking advantage of these people. And then, oh, by the way, let's, make sure that we medicate the crap out of these conditions and diseases that they're getting because of the lack of movement and all the garbage that they're getting in their meals.
Yeah, you're not going to...
School lunches. Oh. That's such a great example. Yeah. It's just disgusting.
Do they still do chicken patties? I'm sure I've lived on those chicken patties.
I know. I love
And you know what? The one ingredient missing from a chicken patty would be chicken. It's like, I can't even. I don't even want to think about it.
I don't either. Well, I remember. I think it was Jamie Oliver. Actually, I can see it up on our refrigerator there. it was something about Jamie's America is his book, but yeah, he did a big docuseries a while back and talked about. He actually showed kids how he made chicken nuggets. And how the industry made chicken nuggets.
I think I saw clips.
Literally, took all the scraps from all the chicken and and just ground it up and then made it pink slime. We've heard of pink slime. You literally put bleach in it and just rinse it out and the kids are gagging and grossing out over this. But then by the end, he basically put it into a form of a chicken nugget, fried it up, made it look like a chicken nugget, and they're like, "Oh yeah, let's eat it."
Yep. It's like,
oh my gosh, rather than
be like
a nice salad that he took time and prepped and everything. And it's so there's literally psychology behind this in terms of, this is what kids want to eat. We're going to wrap it up and, it's a wolf in sheep's clothing is what this food that they're trying to sell us. And again, you're going back to it's banned in other countries because
and then we're sitting there and wondering why are we have so many issues here? Why do we have such a high rate of childhood obesity and attention issues and other childhood illnesses and
diabetes has gone up significantly. They used to call it it used to be juvenile onset diabetes, but that was type 1. Now they can't even call it that because kids are getting type 2 insulin resistant diabetes, which is absolutely a dietary onset of insulin resistance, and it's just scary.
It really is, and it really comes down to because I talk about this all the time. When I'm working with somebody one-on-one, and they're like, I'm trying, and I was like, I know, trust me, I get frustrated because, and like you were saying, it's the availability of it. So if I go to the local supermarket in Bellevue, for example, they don't have Simply Heinz. They don't have the natural chicken sausage. I have to go to Giant Eagle and spend an arm and a leg to get that stuff. But so it's you're talking about, I'm talking about a couple miles apart. But right there, we're talking about access. So people that live in Bellevue, they're not going to, a lot of them don't drive. They're not going to go over
it's a bus town,
they go to their local supermarket. And so right off the bat, they don't have the access. I walk through the produce aisle there, and everything looks so sad. And I refuse to buy produce there anymore. Half the time I get it home and it's spoiled. And again, it's not the store's fault. They're getting what, they're getting what's available to them at a reasonable cost. But it's just, why do we have the substandard stuff? We have the ability to have the stuff, the good stuff. So that should be the bar. But no, of course we have to, everybody wants the cheapest, the cheapest option for them to make the most money. So as a consumer, it really does come down to, the importance of reading labels, of looking, really looking for the most natural options, and it's hard. And again, I'm just shopping for myself. I can't even imagine being out there and trying to find stuff that your kids will eat but also again, they're going to friends' houses and you can't control what they're having there. And so, it really just does come down to trying to be an informed consumer, doing your best to look for those natural options, looking at the honestly, just starting out with looking at an ingredients list. And
if you can't understand it, put it down.
People always come back and argue, and they're like, oh, well, if you look at the vitamins true scientific name, I'm like, yes, okay, I get that, but
if it's in that form, they had to artificially put those vitamins in. They had to add them to there.
I'm talking about if you pick up a product and the first ingredient's some crazy long name you can't pronounce, and you don't understand any of the words on the label, put it back. Go for stuff where, if you're picking up a potato-based product, then the first ingredient should be potatoes. It shouldn't be sugar or some chemical or...
What did Erin get the other day? She had I think she was picking up some ingredients for one of the giveaways that we're doing in our office this month. And she had a bag of apple crisps.
Ooh.
And they were just, baked apple crisps. They were in a bag as a snack food. And the ingredients, apples. That was it.
Yep.
That was it. And they were delicious.
Yeah.
They were so good. I'm like, Oh my goodness! And you could make your own.
Yeah.
And so something like that, again, just going back to the access. I mean, that bag was probably expensive.
Oh,
it was probably
I'm
like
sure.
$4 or $5 for a little like 3 or 4 serving bag of probably less servings than that.
I was going to say
1 to 2 servings.
I was going to say the
At
way
least
you're
I ate in
fan.
1 serving. But yeah, it's like But again, they had to cut the apple. They had to bake the apple.
Yeah, you're paying for the preparation of it. Yeah.
But it's something that if you have some prep time and as a family, it's like that's going to be better. Like being able to make your own apple crisp.
Oh yeah, I'll
make
do
your own
that.
fried potatoes. If use an air fryer, fried potatoes. Aaron asked me what I wanted for dinner the other day, and I was like, we haven't had those golden potatoes in the air fryer for a while. And it's like literally, we chop up the golden potatoes, cube them up, put them in the air fryer, a little bit of oil over them, just let them bake or fry, and they are delicious.
Oh yeah,
a little bit of ketchup, simply simply Heinz ketchup.
I'll take a baked sweet potato over any any of those pre-made processed.
Yeah.
Again, and that's the thing too, is if you continue to work on yourself and on your family to enjoy and appreciate the taste of real food, then you will your brain will. It takes time, but the less of the crap that you consume and the more of the natural whole foods that you consume, your brain will start to shift. Like stuff that I used to love, like now I'm like, oh my God, how did I ever eat this? This is horrendous. Yeah. But then, and not just love, but the stuff that I used to be addicted to, like have no self-control around. Yeah. I'm like, oh no, I don't want that at all. Now it's like you put your brisket out in front. That's the stuff. I'm like, oh, that's smoked brisket. I'm like, I had no off switch with that.
Which is okay because it's meat and fat.
Yes, exactly. So I'm like, now that's the stuff I crave. The sweet potatoes, the when I see a nice, a good salad out, that's the stuff that I'm craving versus, before. So it really goes to show.
Oh, and so you're talking about switching that. The good news is, because people are like, just how, what do I do? Because I'm a sugarholic, and trust me, I go through phases where I am completely addicted to sugar, and I need to then take breaks. I need to do fasts.
Oh yeah, after the holidays, we're like, all right, fasting time. Yeah. This is ridiculous.
So that's the good news, because your body and even your brain, if you come off sugar for about 1 week. And just eliminate all added sugar. Okay, not from your food, natural food sources, but all added sugar in all sources. If you eliminate that for 1 week, you will change your brain chemistry to be able to start to get back to some normalization where you're not going to have the sugar cravings. That's why a program like Whole 30. Oh yeah, there's something to that, because again, it's not eliminating food. It's not restricting food.
In fact, it's the exact opposite. It says eat as much as you want.
Eat as much as you want, but it has to be this specific food, and you are eliminating all the added chemical, garbage that is in snack and other food sources. So, so there is hope. You have to be dedicated. You have to pick a program or pick something and take the action to do it so that you can give your body a chance to reset.
Yeah. And it takes, it takes a lot of, I would say it takes a lot of maybe time and prep on the front end. So again, you have to do your research. You have to figure out what you shouldn't be eating, what you should be eating. Like for Whole 30, for example, like I did that a year or two ago, and yeah, it's like you have to find the recipes, you have to figure out, you have to get the right ingredients and all of that. But once you get into the routine of it, then it's the same as your normal. You know what stores will have the stuff that you need. You have your kind of go-to recipes that, like that's, I do a lot of, we're heading into the crock pot season, and a lot of the crock pot recipes I use are Whole 30 recipes still, because again, I know they're going to be clean stuff, and they're going to be filling, and they're going to be things that I don't have to feel guilty if I want to go back and have a second bowl of. And, but yeah, it makes great meal prep. So once you have that as part of your routine, then it's less intimidating. That initial step, it's, if you're used to just kind of going to the store and grabbing the same old stuff, it can be intimidating when you have to go into a new store, a new section of the store, a new aisle. Yeah. And you're like, oh my gosh. But, once you get used to it and once you start to really feel the difference, you'll want to keep eating that way. Again, you'll truly feel the difference. And I've never had, a client come back to me after cleaning up their diet and say, oh, I feel worse. Like everyone's like, wow, I had no idea how bad I felt before.
Well, that's the thing. We see it all the time. And that was part of our, motivation to, bring you onto our team, a few years back, because it was like, I can sit there and adjust people all day long. But if they're going to McDonald's right after, if they still have a toxic diet, then you can still be inflamed. They might move better, but their muscles, their ligaments, their tendons, their joints are still inflamed. So they're still in pain. And so it's like, I knew everything that I could be telling them, but just the time in terms of sitting down and actually helping someone understand why it's important and what they need to do. And, sometimes someone needs a handhold, sometimes they need a kick in the ass. But yeah, that's the whole, you have to look at health as holistic. You've got to hit it from all angles, because if you're missing any of the ingredients, then you're going to be short. You're not going to have optimal level function.
Yep, exactly. So,
are there any other things, any other points, or so?
The only thing I was going to talk about and then just didn't get to was the hummingbirds.
The hummingbirds. Going back and alluding to like why we maybe shouldn't be putting these things in here. Talk about the hummingbirds.
So I had just remembered a while back hearing something about how, anyone growing up knows with the hummingbird feeders, you'd always put the red food dye in it, and that's because hummingbirds can't smell, but they see bright colors, so they like, that's why they're drawn to flowers. And but recently, and I don't know, this might have been a couple years ago, they started warning against adding that food dye because there was no evidence that it was safe for the hummingbirds, and they were actually seeing an increased risk. They actually seen increased tumors, in liver tumors in hummingbirds. Yeah, that were eating the red food dye. And part of it is because they're so tiny, and you have no idea, there's no regulation as how many drops. Someone could put a couple drops in, or someone could put half the bottle in, and so they're getting this excess. But it's just, again, it's not a controlled study or anything like that.
It's an observation.
Yes, but it shows that there was enough anecdotal evidence that people were actually putting out a warning about this. So again, we're recognizing that this dye is affecting hummingbirds. So who's to say it's not affecting us? And that's you're talking your basic red food dye that, probably everybody has in their pantry. We always had food dye in the pantry growing up, and people add it to, again, it's usually baked goods and sweets and things like that you're adding those dyes to. So it's really just, kind of I just always thought it was a good anecdotal, it's like, well, if we care enough about the hummingbirds that we're telling people don't put the red dye because it's hurting the hummingbirds, why don't we care enough about ourselves and our children that we're saying, well, maybe we should stop putting this dye in our food as well. Surprise. So if you haven't heard that about your hummingbirds, stop putting the dye in the hummingbird. If you take nothing else away from this, stop putting dye in your hummingbird feeders. They will see the nice bright red feeder. They do not need the actual nectar to be red. So there you go. There's your PSA of the day. So we did this whole podcast so that I could
save the hummingbirds. She's starting a whole new activist group. Save the hummingbirds. Nonprofit. I'm kidding.
They're just so cute. I want to save the hummingbirds.
They are really cool. So anyway, that is Foods to Die For.
Foods to Die For.
Come check us out if any of this resonated with you, or you just want to learn more information. We have so much information on our website, Turo, Turo, familychiropractic.com. You can check out our, any of our podcast channels, check out more episodes, and do not hesitate to reach out to us if you have any questions or are looking for a healthcare provider that can help you and your family get healthy and stay healthy. So with that, I'm Dr. Dan.
I'm Angela. We'll see you guys next time.
See you at the next one.
You've been listening to What the Health with Dr. Dan and Angela Toro, brought to you by Toro Family Chiropractic. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.whatthehealth.world.